And now for the Gospel according to Calvin and Hobbes. All right, so as you can see, Calvin and Hobbes are out on a walk in the woods, and Calvin starts holding forth like he does. "I don't believe in ethics anymore," he declares. "As far as I'm concerned, the ends justify the means. Get what you can while the getting's good. That's what I say. Might makes right. The winners write the history books. It's a dog-eat-dog world, so I'll do whatever I have to do and let others argue about whether it's right or not." And without missing a beat, Hobbes shoves him. "Hey," Calvin yells, and he lands face down in the mud. And he gets up, caked in mud, is furious. "Why'd you do that?" "You were in my way," Hobbes replies. "Now you're not. The ends justify the means." "I don't mean for everyone, you dolt," Calvin yells. "Just me." And Hobbes just walks away. So there you have it. Thank you, Bill Watterson. So each of us have a strong sense of right and wrong when it comes to how others should treat us or those we happen to care about. And the question is whether we're willing to admit that those same standards of right and wrong, of decency and dignity, apply to everyone else just as well as they apply to us, and should shape, therefore, how we try to treat others, including people who are strangers to us, including people we don't even care about, including even Mets fans. So at a prior church I served, we hosted a winter warming center on cold nights for folks experiencing homelessness. And one of our regular guests just got a kick out of proclaiming to anyone who'd listen, "Remember, kids, you're special, just like everyone else." And it would just crack him up. And he found it really funny that just the seeming contradiction, right? You're special, just like everyone. There's a tension there. And maybe an ironic disillusionment, perhaps, of realizing that when Mr. Rogers spoke to you through the television and helped you to feel just how special you were, he was in fact telling all the kids all across America the same thing. You're special just like everybody else. And if each and every one of us is special, wouldn't that mean no one is special? So you see how this is related. The answer is yes and no. And it takes a bit of a glimmer of a God's eye view of things to see the truth of what's going on here. When we look at those throughout history who have been gifted with glimpses of a God's eye view of things, including, by the way, St. Fred Rogers, they have each and all seen the essential worth and dignity at the heart of every person, at the same time as they've seen just the radically humbling truth of just how brief and tiny each person is in the cosmic scope of things, and how fragile we are, and how much we need each other, and how just decentering that is, of we are not in the center of things. So Jesus, the prophets, many traditions, saints, sages, bodhisattvas, so on, they've all been hit with this insight in one way or another and have gotten the message from it that we therefore need to have strong ethical obligations to one another, and that those ethical obligations don't privilege one kind of person over another. Like there isn't just a rule because I'm me and you're not. So when each of us knows in our bones that it is wrong for someone to try to take our lives, for example, or to do us harm, or to ignore us in our hour of need. We are realizing something that is true for other people just as much as it's true for us. Each person is just as much an I as I am. And if I deny someone else the rights that I want for myself, I'm undercutting my own ethical claim to those rights. Just like Hobbes showed Calvin. Because guess what? I'm not special. And neither are you. Sorry to break it to you. Or rather, well, you were each special, just like everybody else. And I need to say both at exactly the same time. So the reality is we are each just luminous souls who are one of billions of other people. A drop in a wave of just one generation that quickly breaks on the shore of eternity and dissolves to be overtaken by the next wave and the next and the next. And we come and go as generations have come and gone for eons. And so what can be more absurd or false than to believe that somehow I am the main character of this whole drama? And we can see this absurdity when it's revealed in a cartoon. But it's harder to see when I'm acting like that. And the fact is we can tend to. And this is why we have to keep returning to Jesus' teachings. Because it's pretty easy to fall into the delusion of my own self-importance. And I have to say this. We have to keep saying this. Because in our time, just like in times past, we have some very prominent and powerful people who genuinely believe they are very, very special. And that the rules that they want other people to be judged by don't apply to them. They even openly flaunt kind of their hypocrisy as an assertion of power. And there are influential people preaching the virtues of selfishness and will to power. And many in our society are finding this attractive. And the idea that we owe anything to anyone outside ourselves or outside our tribe is mocked and it's attacked and outraged. But then catastrophe hits. A flood or a fire tears through, or bombs start dropping overhead, and suddenly you are in desperate need of help. Suddenly, I realize just how dependent I am on other people and how much I need someone to treat me as that stranger. Suddenly, who will be kind to me when I am the stranger? Who will be a good neighbor to me when I am alone and in need? So the majority of people are, in fact, basically decent, I think. We're susceptible for being kind of morally disappointing and getting caught up with bad influences. But in fact, most people want to do good and to be good and are, in fact, pretty good most of the time. And we are living in a time that calls us to do our best, to do good and to be good for those who are near, for ourselves, for those who are close to us, and for those far, and for those yet to come. And we just have to keep reminding ourselves this. We're living in a time of catastrophic natural disasters, where it means suddenly people near or far are in desperate need. I mean, we just had this unspeakably terrible hurricane tear through the southeast of our country. And they are more frequent and more devastating. The need is increasing and growing. We are living in a time when political violence and that threat is increasing It's been worse in some other times past, but it's been better. We're living in a time with this horrible phenomenon of mass shootings, and there's war and violence in parts of the world that can feel very close sometimes or feel very far away at others. There's all of these forces. There's mass migrations going on, people desperate for refuge. And we're also living in a time when, for the majority of basically decent people who do feel some sympathy for others, it can all feel the more overwhelming because we can get instant and constant images and information about all the bad things that are happening around the globe. And the algorithms know that our attention is drawn to the bad more than to the good. So however much we may be feeling overwhelmed, however easy it can be to get numb, however easy it can be to get hard-hearted or to join with those who are cynical and mean, when we genuinely invite God into our experience of it all, we can know that we're not alone in this. We can know that the stirrings of our compassion, in fact, connect us with something astonishing in its power, the wellspring of life and of love itself. It's far greater and more powerful than we can even imagine. We are connected to a God who embraces all beings and bears all pain and bolsters all beauty. And we know we belong to a God who calls us to do our best as we can to be good neighbors and to be good strangers for those near and those far and those yet to come. And we know that God has always been calling people in this way to grow in their humanity, in their times amidst their crises, to respond with compassion and with courage. And this is why we're still here, by the way. Enough people have responded to this call throughout the generations, well enough, good enough, that they've done their part to help love survive and thrive through the generations. And so I'll keep repeating the refrain: we must not let our hearts be hardened. We must keep returning to God and letting our hearts stay tender and strong for the sake of our neighbors and for the sake of strangers near and far. And so we started with the Gospel according to Calvin and Hobbes. I'll just end with repeating the lyrics from the Gospel according to Kristofferson that Tim so graciously led us through. Deep in the heart of the infinite darkness, a tiny blue marble is spinning through space, born in the splendor of God's holy vision, and sliding away like a tear down God's face. Closer you see the whole wide holy wonder of oceans and mountains and rivers and trees, and the strangest creation of many, the human, a creature of laughter and freedom and dreams. Now the warriors are waving their rusty old sabers. The preachers are preaching the gospel of hate, by their behavior determined to teach us a lesson we're soon to be learning too late. Look closer, my brother, we're killing each other, and we'd better stop and get started today, because life is the question, and life is the answer, and God is the reason, and God is the way. So I give thanks to God.